My training was as an architect, and I've worked for many years in hospital construction. As an architect in projects like these, you always stand between different parties, between the developers and hospital management, who are usually economically oriented, and then the doctors and nursing staff, who have a medical orientation, and also with other planners, and at the end with the construction workers who are putting up the building. And these are very different groups of people who are speaking very different languages. They may all speak German, but they still are speaking different languages at another level. And after I worked in hospital planning for many years and concentrated more on requirements planning, I realized more and more that the communication was taking place in a way where the different groups of people were not really understanding each other. And particularly someone who works in a hospital or is a physician doesn't always say when he hasn't understood something. He just doesn't say that. These people are well educated and very experienced and very self-confident. And then you don't necessarily speak up when you haven't understood something. And that's why I wanted to establish a dialogue in the early phases of the project, where the construction people and the other planners aren't yet participating, so that a learning process can take place. And the physicians and the nursing staff and everyone participating from the hospital side can find their way into the architectural and planning language, can learn to read floor plans and can come to understand the thinking and thought processes which the architect will present to them, and will be able to understand the background of these thoughts. To begin with, we take the people out of their daily work processes. Typically, when the doctor communicates with a nurse or with a hygienist, they're talking about a patient. Or they're not even talking about a person, but rather they're talking about the person's arm or leg or stomach. They're talking about a set of symptoms. And we take the hospital staff out of their daily work situation and put them together in a workshop at one table. The doctors and nurses, and people from hygiene, and technicians all together. And then a communication process begins that is independent of specific patients and instead focuses on processes and on improvement possibilities. And this communication is moderated and facilitated by us. We don't contribute so much to the content of the discussion, because I'm not a doctor and I'm not a nurse, but we create a situation in which these people can really communicate with each other. And we aim to establish a situation in which the typical hospital hierarchies are dissolved. We try to remove ourselves from the current situation. That's what's most difficult. We need to separate ourselves completely from the everyday circumstances. And from this point, we need to develop a vision of best practice. We need to idealize the processes, the whole structure. And of course, we know that it will not finally be possible to build the ideal. That's illusory. But one needs to know how one has moved away from this ideal and for what reason. Otherwise, in a later project phase, someone will come and say, "But it would have been much better like this, why didn't we do it like that?" And if you haven't talked about that, about the ideal, then everyone stands there and says, "Yeah, why didn't we do it like that?" And that's the problem then. And that's why we try to develop an ideal model. You can't do it 100%, but we're trying nonetheless, so that everyone involved says, "This is what would let us work in the best possible way." And it is at that point that we begin with the work of scaling that back to a realizable dimension. In the center of the process are the patients. And in fields like diagnostics or surgery, there are also technical devices involved together with the patients. The coordination between the patient and the physician and the nursing staff and these devices is very important. And for that reason, the medical manufacturers who really understand these devices and their technology very exactly must be integrated into the design process at an early point. The other reason this is important is that the hospital staff we are talking with are working in a particular hospital in the present moment. They are working in a specific way and usually have been doing so for many years and may not have a view of other possibilities. And we bring a view from the outside, from a multitude of projects. The medical manufacturers also bring a view from the outside, again from many different projects. The manufacturer can say, in this hospital or that hospital, the devices are being used in this way or in that way. And this is what I would expect from medical manufacturers, that they would look at the medical requirements described by the users in the hospital and give honest, verified information about the technical possibilities, whether that device is suited for that purpose, and also what else the device can deliver and what further developments can be expected. And in my opinion, this type of input from the medical manufacturers represents an important component in getting the best quality, of course while keeping the neutrality that must be there during the planning process.
Wichtige Komponente in der Qualitätsfindung aus.